causing an error when I find it. Good evening and welcome to Zion's Banner. I got everything working. I thought there was going to be a real glitch, but it all kind of worked out. It's been an exciting day. If you are a Patreon individual or you happen to follow the Zion's Banner Facebook page, you will notice an occasional thing called Musings with Jeff. It's a way of updating folks, and I got some good feedback from the community. I said, is this a good idea to let Jeff muse, or is musing a dangerous thing for Jeff to do? And I got good feedback, so I'm going to be doing those occasionally as things come up that I wouldn't necessarily do a broadcast, maybe some thoughts about an outreach, upcoming events on the calendar, ways of letting people know what's going on, but also kind of sharing my heart. These programs are more teaching, they're more apologetics. Some of my heart comes up, but occasionally there are just uh, a life as an apologist that occasionally kind of comes up. So um, those are more personal. We kind of consider them more in-house family things. And so those will be pasted on Patreon and they'll also be set up so people can view them, but they're not going to be under the listed file because I want certain other things to be what I put out there for the listing. But then there's the in family sort of in community stuff that I kind of want to do. Um, it has been a busy day, and tomorrow is a busy day. So I know we have visitors, but if you're one of the members of the community who is, uh, how do I say it, who's also one of the prayer warriors, tomorrow's a big day. I'm going to have breakfast. My friend George Saig is in town preparing for our large Muslim apologetics or apologetics for Islam conference and Muslim outreach. And so I'm excited. And so I'm going to join him for breakfast. And then we're going to tape a radio interview by God's will that will be roughly about 2 hours long. And so I'm terribly excited to be a part of that. And if there's any way to get hold of material, of course, I will be glad to post it and put it up. So, yes, I will elicit prayers for that because this is an important venture. And this is an important part of preparing for what will happen in March. And so I'm excited about that. Um, so that's just throwing that out there. I'm going to put a plug in for the next conference. And I'll have more promotional materials after talking with George. Prayer 2, the Apologetics Club at Hillside will be starting up, and I want to do a better job with curriculum. So those are things that are on my heart that require divine help, but they aren't just personally, they're just centered around what we do. So that's a little bit of news. We're going to get started tonight. This is based on one of the conversations I had at Glendale Glitters. And I said, look, I like when people give me their objections. I like good conversations. And really, they spur me on to think about, well, what are people objecting to? What type of people am I running into? What are the apologetics issues out there? And I stated very clearly, I believe that evangelism and apologetics go together. So tonight, I ran into an objection. at Glendale Glitters. And I had a wonderful conversation with a lady and her daughter. Um, but I want to kind of share that with you and then deal with those objections. And so that's where we're going to go. We're going to go with what's wrong with this secular Jesus. And so I'm going to let you hear the clip. I'm going to move through here. Um, I want to let you know that I removed the actual video. I've learned how to do this and kept the soundtrack and then put a blurred picture of the two ladies because I don't want to embarrass anybody. She was a really sweet lady. She had a nice daughter. I'm not putting her up here for ridicule. She is an example of some of the thinking out there. I don't know if I did it perfectly, but what I wanted to do was kind of guard their dignity as they shared with me. But I do want you to hear their objection because it is a basic objection that's out there. And we need to deal with it. We just need to deal with it. We need to realize that people think like this. And then we need to see how we deal with it. So as we're getting set to do that, I just want to let you know, if you see a static picture, I could have put their picture up there, but I said, nice lady, nice daughter. We're just dealing with apologetics, but we're not here to take two nice people who are being very open about their views and maybe make them uncomfortable so that the next Christian they talk to, they're not comfortable with. So that's what we're going to move on to. I'm going to put up the PowerPoint and me. Look at that. There we are. I love it when technology works. And I'm going to play the clip. So this is just the slide. We're going to go to the clip. And I'm going to hope that this really works out and plays okay. So I'm going to transition in here. My mouse is having trouble. So pay the penalty for something. And that's something I can't do for you.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of...
But I think his biggest message and God's biggest message is just take care of each other, no matter what. Because I know atheists that treat people better than people that go to church every Sunday. And take care of people better than people that go to church every Sunday. So I don't care what you call yourself, it's your behavior. It's what you see. I can call myself anything I want. Doesn't mean I'm living up to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's your actions. Actions speak louder than words. It's your actions. You can say whatever you want to say and claim to be whatever you want to claim to be. But if your actions are showing kindness and love towards your fellow human being, which we have a lot of, we don't have a lot of right now, then it doesn't matter to me what you call yourself, or who you claim to worship, or who you claim to, show me with your actions that you're trying to be what God and Jesus wanted us to be, which is take care of our fellow man, our children, our relatives, our elderly, take care of, our next door neighbor. You may not even know, but if they need you, you should be there. That's how I look at it.
Well, I think those are really good goals. And I have a dad who I don't think he's agnostic anymore, so he's not sure that he's not sure.
Okay.
He used to just not be sure. Now he's not sure he's not sure.
Right.
But the funny thing is, Jesus said what's on the inside works out. So it's really what you believe that determines what you do, not what you do. And that's what Judaism was. Judaism was kind of what you do determine what you believe.
Okay.
But really, while we should do those things, we have to have a reason. We have to have kind of a reason to know what those things are and to do them. And so for me, the atheist might be a really nice guy, but he's being a really nice guy in spite of his system. I'm trying to emulate my system. Right. My system has.
Well, that's the thing is he may not believe in a system, but he still does way more for his community or his family than people that claim to have that system. I know plenty of people. We get rid of the labels. Why do we have to label everybody? You're a Jew, I'm a Christian, she's a Catholic. We don't have to label people. It's all, in my opinion, by what you do in this world. Because like I said, you can call yourself anything you want. You can claim to believe in anything you want. But if you're not showing that in your family, in your community, in your helping people, then it doesn't matter. What you claim and the words that come out of your mouth don't matter. It's your actions and how you treat the other human beings on this planet. And I'm not just saying in America, I'm saying on the planet. So
that's a pretty big goal.
Yeah, because we have
planet.
a lot of division right now between cultures and between races and between religions. If Jesus, this is the way I look at it. If Jesus was walking down here right now with us, he would not say, "Oh, you're a Jew, you're this color, you're that." He would love everybody and try to help everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, or what you claim to be. It's your intention. It's what's in your heart. See what I'm saying? It's your intent. If my intent is to do good and to love people and to help in any way I can, that's, and I've been taught that. I may try to do something that's good if my intention wasn't in the right place. It kind of nullifies that doing good. Or I may be doing something good, but my intention is to get accolades or to get recognized, and that's not doing it for the right reason.
Well, doesn't that kind of creep into everything a little bit?
Absolutely, but that's what I'm saying is why do we have to label things? Why do we have to label people, label everybody? It's just we're all human beings. We're all here on the same ticket. Nobody's gonna live forever. So I think it's how you conduct yourself while you're here. And like I said, every God that I know, there's only one God.
Yeah.
But every prophet that claimed to spread the word of God, also the same thing. Love thy neighbor, take care of each other. Try not to do harm to anybody or any living being, not just people. So.
Okay, that's. I know what I'm eating for Christmas dinner, so I'm not going to.
Well, see, I'm not. I'm not eating that for Christmas dinner because I care about the animals too.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
As a dietary choice, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I didn't. Gefilte fish was gefilte fish.
Right. Yep.
It's very hard to grow into.
Well, believe me, I grew up eating corned beef sandwiches, so But as you grow, you mature, you learn. Your eyes open up to different things. Just the state of our planet as it is. It's not. I'm hoping that my child has a planet in 20 years or 30 years. I don't know. I'm hoping to help that situation, but I can only do what I can do.
Well, fair enough. Just final thought. Jesus wasn't exclusive in how he loved people.
Right.
But he was exclusive in the way to heaven.
Okay. But that's your opinion. Have you ever talked to Jesus and did he tell you that? That's what I'm saying. I have never talked to God. I have never talked to Jesus. All I can take is I don't think God. Okay. We don't want to get into that whole subject. We don't want to get into that whole subject. But thank you for your time.
Okay.
And for the
I thank you for the interview. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your thoughts about the season with me. I really appreciate that.
It's the greatest time of year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We're back. I wanted to expose you to that clip. Now, that's not what I believe. Okay. And you could see that when we started to get into what Jesus really taught, all of a sudden, we don't want to get into that. Okay. Let's be honest. This is a sincere individual that really, the image of God in her is she wants to image that. She wants to image God on a level. Okay, I believe that people are sinners, but I believe they still have the image of God, and I think they can positively respond to that image in unsaving ways. Okay, in other words, not everyone has to be a jerk who's unsaved, and not everyone's at the same level of jerkiness. And so, yes, I believe there are Nicodemuses out there. Nicodemus was a religious man. He was a sincere man. Jesus didn't question his sincerity. Jesus didn't even question his zeal for God. Okay. Jesus didn't question those things. And so I want to give some credit here. She's not being disingenuous. She's not being antagonistic. Okay. And so, we have to deal with people gently. And so I was gently trying to turn the conversation around. And obviously, I wanted to get to what Jesus really taught and what Jesus really said, because she is building her own Jesus. That's the problem. So let's see if we could look at what Jesus's message really was. Now, I mean, that sounds obvious, but it certainly isn't obvious to her. She didn't get it. She said it was all about love. Now, see, that's the secular Jesus. The secular Jesus is we take his message and we view it through certain cultural eyes. Okay, um, but um, but what did Jesus really say? What was Jesus's real message? So the best way to do that is to look at what Jesus said, right? We're going to talk about this "Did you hear from Jesus" thing because there's a straw man argument she uses at the end. But let's just go with the fact that we know that Jesus's words were recorded, and we'll talk about the fallacy of using the direct knowledge only counts sort of mentality. Now look at this. Now she says, it only matters what you do. Okay. Now the secular Jesus is we take Jesus's message, we make him another guru. We say he's a good, moral, upright teacher. We kind of we say that there's this universality of religions. You heard it. All the prophets taught the same thing. Um, Nothing could be further from the truth. I love Rabbi Zacharias. He says most people think that religions are only superficially different, but are essentially the same. He says it's exact opposite. They're essentially different and only superficially the same. So how do I know this? Well, look at Jesus' response to works. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of God, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Well, that's nice religious stuff. Did we not cast out demons in your name? Well, that's helping somebody, right? I mean, nobody wants a demon. That doesn't work really well. Can I enlarge the text? Not very well, um, because I have to share the screen. But here's what I will do. I will pull this little trick here, and I will try to go to the PowerPoint alone. Now, this is risky. Did that enlarge the text? No. I can do this. That's the best way for me to enlarge the text. So I don't know if that really makes it all that much bigger. And I can shrink me down. Okay, so there's me shrinking. I'm the incredible shrinking host. There we go. Here I am, the incredible shrinking host. And then I can enlarge this picture bigger because it can fit in there. And there we go. That makes the text bigger. So, okay, that's about the best I can do. Okay. I really can't because of the nature of the PowerPoint, the software, and everything else. So we have some more wonderful friends in the room. Uh, yeah, there's this thing where if the text is big enough in the PowerPoint, it isn't necessarily big enough when I put it on the screen because the computer program is sharing the camera with the screen and everything else. So I will do my best. These PowerPoints are available though. So if you want to look at the text, I have posted the link to the PowerPoint. Here's the trick. Okay? You can have the PowerPoint going while the YouTube show's going. Isn't that neat? Um, and so you can have that for your very own. Uh, and you could reuse it. You know, just kind of mention my name. It's nice. We have to cite in my doctoral program. Um, yes, it is. I don't like dividing verses or doing A and B. You'll do like Ephesians 1:11a. A, so that's, I'm working on that, but I just, man, there's something inside of me that when I like gotta break a verse in half, it could be just the Jewish, you don't mess with the physical text thing. I don't know. It's just, so I'm fighting with that part of me that just, so loves the text. Let me read this to you though. Um, I wanted the city background because this is the secular Jesus, say. And so, I like the secular Jesus to, there's the city, there's the secular. And so, yeah, it's like making the music for the service match the message sort of thing. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom. And we said, Have we not prophesied in your name? Have we not cast out demons? Have we not done wonders? Have we not declared to them? And then I will declare to them, depart from me, I never knew you, you who practice lawlessness. Therefore, anyone who hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it did not fall. Okay? For it was founded on the rock, but everyone who hears the sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. Now, the first thing you need to see here is the things that Jesus is listing are not bad things in themselves. Someone asked, it's not, it's on the Facebook page, but I can go back and put it in the description for you, or at the end of the show, I can post it in the chat real quick. While the music's playing, I can duck out, get it, and then post it in the chat for you. The reason I tend not to do that is I want people to have the PowerPoint who are going to possibly see the show. I don't want to separate, and that's just, that's a personal preference, but I will get it to you. And so you fret not. I posted early. I posted on our Facebook page. But if you need another way of me doing that, I can even email you the link. A little hard for tomorrow, though, because I'm going to be on a radio program and, doing a bunch of stuff. So tomorrow's schedule is going to be a little tighter, but I'll see what I can do. The point is, these aren't bad things. I mean, it's not bad to free someone from demonic possession. I mean, that's not fun. It's not wrong or bad to heal people. The wonders include healing. If someone's sick, would we not want to be able to heal them? And Jesus says, I never had personal relationship with you. That word new, I think, in the context and even in the Greek, has the idea of personal relationship. And so Jesus is saying, look, here's what I'm going to say to these guys that do all these good works. I never knew you. There was no personal relationship at all between me and you. Doing what Jesus said, we're going to see involves more than just being a nice person. And by the way, Jesus never agreed that the atheist who does well is equivalent to the believer who doesn't. Let me use an example from C.S. Lewis that I didn't put in the slide that I think Jesus is getting at. Jesus was asked, what about the Christian who isn't so nice and the non-believing neighbor who is? And C.S. Lewis's response is classic. He said, well, think how nasty the Christian would be if he wasn't saved, and think how much nicer the neighbor would be if he was. So she's making an essential fallacy. She's making the fallacy that sanctification is nothing more than positive action. But there are problems with that. And so she's making the assumption. In fact, Jesus' main teaching was to follow him. Now, look how radical this is. Okay? And I'll give you the Semitic background, but this is incredibly radical. Okay? Whoever loves mother and father more than me is not worthy than me. And whoever loves daughter or son more than me is not worthy of me. For he who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. He who finds his life will lose it. He who loses his life for my sake will find it. Matthew 10, 37 through 39. Now, what is Jesus saying here? This is like crazy. She just said that, the main thing isn't the labels and who believes what. The main thing is that you take care of your parents and your family. Well, not according to Jesus. Not according to Jesus. Jesus said, look, I have to be more important than your mother or father. Now, it doesn't mean not meeting your responsibilities, okay? But you have to be so sold out to me that comparatively, you have to be more sold out to me than to mother or father. How does that fit with the ethics that she had? Okay, she isn't looking at the Gospels to see what Jesus said. She doesn't think God would say that. Well, that's all very nice. That's like me saying, I don't think you just said what you said for 5 minutes. Okay. This is what Jesus said. We'll get to that, but the reality is the secular Jesus is a figment of her imagination, because the historical Jesus is saying some things here. And he's not saying the most important thing is to be sold out in the care of your parents, even though the Bible teaches you need to take care of your parents. Jesus is saying your number one allegiance needs to be to me, not to good works, not to your community, not to saving the earth. Okay? Let's get this real clear. Jesus isn't worried about if there's a planet in 20 years. Now, do I believe not in good stewardship? I could do a show on environmentalism in a Christian point of view. And if people indicate an interest, we did some stuff in my doctoral program. But here's the bottom line, okay? Jesus isn't worried about it. She's worried about whether her daughter has a planet. Jesus is worried about where her daughter's soul goes, okay? God made this planet. He could remake it in 5 minutes, okay? That's not his number one concern. Jesus' number one concern is follow me. Okay? So Jesus' main teaching was not love. Otherwise, Jesus would have said, look, he who does not love is going to hell. And he who's nice and does things for his neighbor is going to heaven. But Jesus doesn't say that. You need to take up your cross. The cross was an instrument of death. In other words, self-will and autonomy from God is Jesus' main concern, not necessarily nice good works. God is concerned about your relationship with God. God is concerned about you as a worshiper, not you just as a nice person. So Jesus' main teaching was not just some sort of ooey gooey, chewy love. Love as I define it, doing good as I define it. Not eating turkey is not Jesus' main concern. By the way, a really interesting question for her is Jesus ate meat. If he was this enlightened teacher that taught the right way, and he was a prophet of God, and all the prophets of God say the same thing, then why did he eat meat and Hindus don't? You can't both be prophets of God and be teaching different things. So, she's making up this picture of Jesus. Okay? But that's not Jesus's main point. It's not just be nice. Okay? It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And, Mr. Rogers might have been doing some good things, but Jesus was not Mr. Rogers. He was not checking in with the land of make-believe. Okay? So she's a sweet lady, but she's not grasping who Jesus really is and what Jesus really said. Or she's not wanting to grasp it. And I'm going to just center myself a little more here. What did Jesus say about heaven? I mean, heaven's just a place for nice people, right? Well, that's not what he said. He said, he who believes and is baptized will be saved, and he who does not believe will be condemned. I'm not going to go into the exegesis of Mark 16:16. Okay? Baptism follows belief the way exhaling follows inhaling. It's just a natural sort of thing. But the reality of it is I don't think baptism saves. Jesus says he who believes and is baptized, because baptism, particularly in the early church, was something that did not happen 6 months after you got saved. Remember, first of all, there's the lifespan, and second of all, there was a time when the church was being persecuted. So you didn't get to schedule a calendar event. You just immediately got baptized because you immediately identified with the community. Because look, face it, among Israel, the minute you identified with Jesus, your business was closed. Okay? You couldn't go back into the synagogue. Well, where do you think the business relationships were formed? You networked at the synagogue. So the minute you believed in Jesus, you needed to identify with the community because you were a man without a country. You were a woman without a country, and you might even be dead. Okay? So it's sort of like it is in Muslim countries. You know, you're really not, unless you're going to try to be a secret believer sort of thing, you're really not playing a game with this. Okay, if you're really all in, you don't have a lot of time. So, Jesus said, those who believe on him. Why didn't he just say, those who don't eat turkey, who are really nice people? Because this is the real Jesus. This isn't the fake Jesus. Okay? Um, this is the real Jesus, not the Jesus of her imagination. So she means well, but again, she's not grasping who Jesus is and what he said. Okay, he said, you know, you need to follow me. You need to put your allegiance in me. You need to believe and trust upon me. You need to get all in and believe I am who I said I am, and that I'm the one who's going to take care of your problem, a problem that she doesn't acknowledge exists. Notice we didn't get to atonement. Look at this. I mean, this is incredible stuff, okay? Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except that they love their parents, don't eat turkey, and save the earth. Now, I'm being facetious. That's not what the verse says. It's John 14:6. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. What happened to all these teachers? See, the secular Jesus is just another teacher out of a group of teachers. He's just another truth teller, but he's not exclusive. Jesus said, I'm exclusive. Okay? I'm not exclusive in who I allow to come to me. I'm exclusive that I'm the way you have to come. That's what I was trying to get across to her, is Jesus isn't exclusive because he invites everybody. Okay? Jesus is exclusive because he says there's only one way of entrance. Now, everybody is welcome to that one way, but you don't get a choice of 50 doors because there's only one door that leads to God. Now, you're talking to a guy who grew up in Judaism. I mean, is this not offensive? Okay? Is this not offensive to an Orthodox rabbi who sincerely is zealous for God? So I don't buy the thing that unbelievers can't. Let me put this carefully, okay? Hear what I'm not saying. I don't believe unbelievers can worship God in a saving manner that fully pleases him, because without faith, it's impossible to please God. I do believe that unbelievers can sincerely worship God in a way that is not saving and is deeply flawed and thus unacceptable. Did you hear the difference? Okay. God did not tell Nicodemus he was not worshiping the right God, or he was not worshiping. What he told him is he had to be born again. Your worship will not be pure and acceptable to God as long as it's tainted with arsenic, just like the chocolate chip cookies. And so Jesus is not interested in just being another moral voice out there in the wilderness telling people to be nice. But that's the picture she has of Jesus. Okay? As long as we all just kind of all get along. By the way, you'll notice that when the conversation turned to what Jesus really said, and if he said it, all of a sudden she didn't get along. Okay? Where was the tolerance to listen to my points of views on this and answer her question? She didn't want the question answered. Not because she's not a nice woman. It was one of the best conversations, sweet conversation, sweet lady, nice daughter. Okay? Um, but the problem is she's got the wrong picture. Okay? She's looking at the picture of three dogs playing poker and thinking it's the Mona Lisa. She doesn't have the right picture because she has the wrong picture. Okay. The point that Jesus makes is very clear, and we looked at this verse earlier, is good works apart from personal submission to God don't work. Okay? God wants you. God doesn't need you to help him out in being nice in the universe. He's got all the niceness taken care of. Okay? He is the sole repository of all good. He doesn't need you to go ahead and show him what good looks like. Okay? Personal submission to God, take up your cross and follow me, is the thing. But Jesus was just another good teacher. Well, that would work if he didn't claim to be God. I love this quote from C.S. Lewis. I hope you all can see it. Let me read it to you. Because if she had taken this seriously, I'm trying here to prevent anyone from saying a really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. This is the one thing we must not say. For a man who is merely a man and said the sorts of things Jesus said would not be a good moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with a man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be a devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him, you can kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. Love that line. Jesus is either, if he's claiming to be God, either somebody so nuts as to think he's a kumquat, or so evil as to prove himself to be something far worse. Yes, this is the famous lawyer, lunatic, or Lord argument. She said that Jesus was a nice guy. But again, to do so, she has to ignore Jesus' own claims, as we're going to see. In other words, if this Jesus indeed said these things, and she is ignoring them, then it is not the Jesus of history and the Bible that she has. It is a Jesus that she has invented, who is comfortable. Now, I'm saving some of this material because I will be doing at the Muslim conference. One of the topics I will be addressing at the training is, did Jesus claim to be God? But I'm going to share some of this because if Jesus claimed to be God, that he cannot be just one of a number of prophets. He becomes the source of all the prophets. He did so explicitly in a clear and detailed manner, leaving no room for confusion or doubt. At the upcoming conference on evangelism Islam, I'll be discussing Jesus' post-resurrection explicit claim to deity. So that's exciting stuff, and I'll be sharing that. And his implicit claims. But I'm not going to do that tonight. See, that's a teaser. You're going to want to come back when I do that. What I will do is discuss Jesus' explicit claims. And you're going to learn a little Greek and Hebrew and how they relate, which is always so much fun for me that I just can't stand it. So I just got to do this stuff because this is where it gets really fun for me. Jesus said to them, most assuredly, I say to you, before Abraham, I am. Now, what you see below that, hopefully you can see below that because it looks really, really good to me on the software. Okay. I got to show a little bit of the white there. Is you're going to see the Greek words ego, eimi. See, you've just got two Greek words if you don't know Greek. And so, ego, eimi. It almost sounds like, let go of my ego commercial if you need a way to remember. I found interesting ways to remember Hebrew and Greek on the subways of New York, traveling between Brooklyn and Manhattan. Okay. And so there you go. Now, that's the Greek. Now, you don't have a separate four-letter Hebrew consonantal word for this. But I'm going to trace it through for you here. And we're going to go ahead and deal with this. Hey, go amen. Okay. It is always wonderful to have fun folks in the room doing this. Let me click this on here. Okay. Now, ego eimi is equivalent to a Hebrew term that's used when God gives his basic name, okay, in Exodus. Okay, so when you have the Hebrew, okay, Vayomer Elohim El Moshe, Eyah Asher Eyah, Vayomer Ko, and I'm just double checking my vowel markings because when you get small, so it looks like Tomar or Tomer, B'nai Yisrael, but I don't have the vowel markings to help me with that last part there. Okay, usually you'd have Te'omar because your prefix would be. I'm thinking through my cal. I'm conjugating in my head. Okay, so pardon me without the vowel markings. I should be able to conjugate it. It's a second person, um, imperfect, male. And so there's what it is. The important words there. Timur. The important words there are the ego, ami. I'm sorry for stopping there. I know how to conjugate second person Hebrew verbs. Why am I doing this? Blanking. Um, is that word there? I am who, that's a share, I am. Okay? And that goes back to ego, a me, because there isn't one way to do that. When God took that particular name for himself, he used the Hebrew verb for being, and then he took from it what's called the four letters or the tetragrammaton. But in Greek, you have the verb for being, and then you have the pronoun separate. In Hebrew, you have prefixes and suffixes that equal the pronoun in a lot of cases, particularly with verbs. Okay? So that's what you have here. And so what I did here, which is really cool, is I took the Greek for Exodus 14 and 15, put it alongside the Hebrew for Exodus 3:14. So it's the same verse in Greek, okay? And what I'm just saying is, look, if you put the Hebrew up against the Greek, you get the ego ami for God's name. That's all I'm doing, okay? So if I lost you a little in the Greek, I'm just demonstrating Jeff Cran is not making up the idea that ego ami goes back to the I am, where God says his name is I am who I am. Okay? I'm not making it up. When I line up the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible with the Hebrew Bible, it works. Now, Jesus knew this. Okay? He lived during this time period. He knew Hebrew. Okay? First of all, he was God. Okay? But, you know, even in his incarnation, he knew Hebrew. He knew Greek. Okay? You know, what was spoken around him. Okay? That's not to mention he's God. But even in his humanness, he had access to this knowledge. He knows perfectly well when he says that I am the way, the truth, and the life. He knows exactly what he's saying. And rightly so, someone in the audience pointed out, I think there are other people that thought of as his audience knew exactly what he was saying. I'm just showing you that Jesus knew exactly what he was saying. And that the Hebrew and Greek work out. In fact, here's the proof that his audience knew what he was saying, which is an excellent point. Then they took up stones to stone him but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them. They took up stones to do what? They took up stones to stone him. Because he's done this a few times where he's indicated deity. And they know exactly what he's indicating. Now, this isn't the John 14 passage. This is another passage where Jesus does something similar. The point is, Jews, those who knew the names of God and the story of Moses perfectly, understood what Jesus was claiming. Okay? Now, I'm not the first person to pick up on that. Some of the audience isn't the first person. Good commentators even point this out. I am here must be understood as a divine claim and taken this way by the Jews. It's obvious to anyone who's reading the text without a bias that they understood Jesus was claiming to be God, which is not what nice people did back then. So that's an explicit claim, which means Jesus is setting himself apart from every moral teacher and from Muhammad the moment he does this. Okay, we could talk with how Jews dealt with this claim and Jewish proto-Trinitarianism and binitarianism, but let's just say this separates Jesus from the pack as far as his claims. This is not the nice secular Jesus. This is the one claiming to be God. Now, she said it only matters what you do. And I've demonstrated that that wasn't Jesus' emphasis. Jesus' emphasis wasn't just love, and it wasn't just what you do, but let me go a little further, okay? Because what she said is we've all read that faith without works is dead. Works without faith is dead too. In fact, if you want the formula, it works both ways. Faith without works is dead, and works without faith is dead. Okay? Because the works are the demonstration of the faith. They're the fruit of the tree. So let's look at the Hebrew scriptures. Now, I do this for a reason. One of the things my people like to do is they argue that it is what you do. She was using the same argument that a Jew would use, only he'd frame it in terms of mitzvah. The important thing is you're a nice Jewish boy. You practice the mitzvahs. You do good stuff. You send your children to Hebrew school. Life is beautiful, right? But let's see what's really going on here. The Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain on the tablets. This is Habakkuk chapter 2. That he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for the appointed time, and at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Behold, the proud, his soul is not right within him. Notice that. The contrast is pride. But the just shall live by faith. The contrast is between pride and belief. Isn't that interesting? This is Old Testament. Shall the just live by saving the earth and being nice to people and helping their community? No. See, God has a different view of it than this lady does. She said God would never say, this is what God says. The just will live by faith. This is what God says. It's not that God wouldn't say this. God has already not said he's already said what she said he wouldn't say. He's already made himself clear. And this is a prophet, by the way. Do all the prophets say the same thing? No. Let's read this in the context of the Babylonians coming and Habakkuk dealing with the fact that the Babylonians are worse than the Jews at the time. And so God's going to use a more evil nation to go ahead and enact discipline on his people. Okay? And what Habakkuk's essentially saying is, okay, the proud individual, the self-sufficient individual, his soul isn't right. But the just will live by faith, dependence, and trust in God. This is Habakkuk 2:4. Justification by what you do is pride. Because it says you can do enough and you can do it right enough. And that's why it's pride. It isn't wrong to help little old ladies off the street. It's wrong to assume that God has to like you and love you because you help little old ladies across the street. And that you don't need him spiritually to make you right with him. See, justification by faith was taught way before Romans. I always joke. I always say that if Luther had just paid attention to Genesis 15:6 and Habakkuk 2:2, he wouldn't have even had to go all the way to Romans. It's there. Let's look at the Apostle Paul. Now, the Apostle Paul spends a lot of time on this because he's dealing with the Jewish audience. Okay? And they're doing the same thing she's doing. Obey the law, stay in union with Israel. When Israel gets saved, you'll get saved because you're in union with Israel, kept there. Okay? So even though you start out elect, you keep yourself, you work your way up. A little different than her because they believe you start as part of the elect community, but you need to kind of maintain it. It's more like Catholicism today, maintaining your standing in the church, and you get your salvation through the church. Here it was more through Israel, but let's deal with the Apostle Paul, good Pharisee that he was. So what shall we say then? Our father Abraham was found according to the flesh. If Abraham was justified by works, saving the earth, not eating turkey, being a nice person, taking care of their community, he has something to boast about. See, and there's the problem. It's not that some atheists are nice and some Christians are less nice. It's that some atheists are boasting that they can know truth apart from a transcendent source and can ignore their creator. And a Christian who's trying to work out his sanctification is not ignoring his creator, nor is he boasting that he can understand truth apart from a transcendent origin and source. But not before God, for what does Scripture say? Abraham believed God. This is Genesis 15:6, folks. And it was counted to him for righteousness. Paul's making his argument based on the first book of the Bible. In the first 15 chapters, God reveals justification by faith. Abraham believed God. His wages, now to him who works, now let's think about this. He's using a very normal analogy. To him who works, taking care of his community, being nice, eating only veggies, to him who works, his wages are not counted as grace, but as a debt. My boss doesn't favor me by paying me. Okay? That's the contract. I work, you pay, right? You'd be a little bugged if your boss said, hey, look, what I really want you to go ahead and do is you need to take me out for dinner because I'm doing you a big favor by giving your money at the end of the month because, after all, it's just grace that causes me to pay you even though you're putting in the time. But to him who does not work but believes on him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted for righteousness. Just as David also described the blessedness of the man to whom God does not impute to whom God imputes righteousness apart from works. Blessed are those whose lawless deeds are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the man whom the Lord does not impute sin. Paul is making the point of this very thing, that this woman's system is backwards. Okay? And she used a common cliche. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And God says, no, it's why you do what you do. See, that's what she ignores. Okay, it's why you do what you do. Who are you doing it for? Now, my Orthodox Jewish grandfather was doing it in part for God. Okay? Um, but he was also still kind of working his way. He was still kind of building a stairway to heaven. Okay? And it's what I tried to share with her. You could do the right thing for the wrong motivation. You still did the right thing, but you didn't do it for the right reason, so who cares? And I used this analogy, and it wasn't in the part of the interview you saw where I said, if I give my wife roses only for the wrong reason, such as I want something, is that then really a loving gift? God wants us to do things to display Him as image bearers and thus to magnify Him and glorify Him and worship Him. Okay. Now, her big argument here, okay, had to do with, did Jesus really tell you? I mean, seriously, I haven't heard from God lately. That's also faulty. And if I'd had the chance to continue further, which she was not going to give me, okay, I would have started with an analogy. Her daughter was at school and she was home for the holidays. And I would have said, here's the thing. If your daughter's at college and she writes you a letter, is your daughter communicating with you or isn't she? I mean, are you hearing from your daughter when she sends you a letter? And she'd probably say yes. And I said, well, wait a minute. You didn't audibly hear her in that letter. You didn't audibly hear her when you got the card for Mother's Day. She was away. Okay? You didn't audibly hear her at all. Does that mean she didn't communicate with you? Now, the only thing she could say is Jesus didn't write the Gospels, to which I'd say, okay, so what you're telling me is if your daughter dictates a letter to you, it's not your daughter speaking anymore. When you fill out a bill and you send it in, it's not you really paying the bill anymore. Second application isn't so good. Okay. Since when is somebody writing or transcribing my exact words, not me communicating? Since when is a secretary typing a letter not communicating? What you would have to demonstrate for your case to work is that the New Testament Gospels do not accurately reflect Jesus' teaching. Are you prepared with a knowledge of the original languages and the manuscripts to demonstrate that the Gospels I have are not an accurate representation of Jesus' teaching? Because that's the only way that argument really works. Okay? So, her argument just doesn't work. Okay? I don't need to physically talk with Jesus. By the way, Jesus does speak to our hearts. He prompts us to prayer. There's a peace. There's the Holy Spirit's testimony, which, by the way, is first person testimony. You're there. When you sense God's presence, you are the one sensing it. It's a first person. We won't get into what's called properly basic or warrant for Christian belief. Okay? But it's a properly basic, and if you're the witness to it who is having the experience, you have every right to believe that experience is true if there's nothing that prevents that it's not. Excellent line. Air Church did. The Gospels are a 4D image of Jesus. 4D because they're four Gospels. That's pretty good. I like that. So that's where I'm coming from. Okay, so she's painted a Jesus who is just a nice moral teacher, who is only interested in love, not submission to God, not people following him, who doesn't make exclusive claims that he's the only way, did not claim to be deity, even though he did. And it's just kind of a why can't we all just get along kind of Jesus? And that's the secular Jesus. He makes no claims, no demands. He claims no unique authority, and he demands no allegiance. But that isn't the Jesus of the Bible. The Jesus of the Bible expects our allegiance, claims to be God incarnate, claims to be the only right way to God, is solely interested in people following him and people being submitted to God. And beyond that, the Jesus of the Bible believes that you're not saved through simply helping your community and being a nice person. He believes that apart from him, there is no salvation. He's not exclusive in who he invites. He loves. Now, I want to be careful, okay? Yes, there is a sense in which he loves everybody, but he doesn't love everybody in their sinful state, not submitted to God, doing works that are not perfect in his sight, worshiping him in a way that is not perfect in his sight, if indeed they worship at all. And this woman had no religious belief. Now, admittedly, she had family members of different faiths, but that's not the point. And it isn't about labeling people. Okay? She had this idea it's about labeling people. We need to get rid of that. I didn't deal with that in this episode, but you know what? It's not about labeling people. It's about recognizing people for what they say they believe. If someone tells me they're a Hindu, I believe they're a Hindu. Unless I have reasons not to believe it. We don't label people. We acknowledge what people are. And people are what they are. And they believe what they claim to believe unless they're lying to me. And those labels are descriptions of accurate facts related to that person. And it's not wrong to say I have a gray beard because I do. And it's not wrong to say that Jesus made certain claims of exclusivity because he did. And it's not wrong, even though it offends her sensibilities, for those claims to be true because they are. Water is wet, ice is solid. Today is Wednesday because it is, whether I like it or not. And so her view, although she's sweet, is misinformed, leads nowhere, and really is based on an improper picture of Jesus and very fallacious arguments. Now, she doesn't care about that probably, and I'm glad she had the conversation, but I wish she'd let me take it further. But you know what? Everybody who's read the Gospels has heard from Jesus. It's a matter of what they've managed to take away from that and whether they're going to believe what they heard. So that's where we are this evening. Welcome to the secular Jesus, the mishmash Jesus who demands nothing, said nothing, is just another moral teacher, amounting to nothing because he died for nothing and he achieved nothing. But that's not the Jesus of the Bible, who died for sin, made exclusive claims, is claiming a people unto himself for his Father, and will eventually present us before him. Does apologetics and evangelism work together? I think tonight proves it sort of does. And I'm glad that you were here. But then again, most of you knew it does, or you wouldn't be turned into the station, right? And so it works either way. I am so good to have someone visiting from New Zealand. I don't know. I want to call it the land down under, but I don't want to offend. So I don't know if it's the land down under or the land next to the land down under. But I'm so glad to have the visit. If you're from another country and you have found us, please let other people know. It'd be fun to have more people from New Zealand. I have a dear pastor friend whose parents served as missionaries in New Zealand. And yes, I used to like Vegemite. So, okay. Tomorrow we'll be back in Matthew, dealing with How Then Shall We Live? A look at the background of the Golden Rule as it relates to the background of Jesus' time and the literature that was around. And so you're welcome to join us. And then on my website, zionsbanner.org, was a posting of future topics. And I will be updating that, but not tomorrow with all the meetings. And then there's just musings with Jeff, and I'll probably muse again soon. Yeah. Someone's pointing out where New Zealand is, and I hear they have a lot of sheep. So it's a great for Passover time when you can actually have lamb. So, and for the Lord of the Rings fans, from what I know, a good deal of the Lord of the Rings was filmed in New Zealand. And if it is near as beautiful as some of the scenery I saw in Lord of the Rings, it can go on my bucket list, and it would be fun to visit. Okay, I'm right. There are a tremendous amount of sheep. So wool and mutton are in. I like properly prepared mutton, and I'm really fond of wool sweaters. So that is cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to, the chat will stay open for a few minutes. Oh, there we go. So there we go. I have confirmation that the scenery in New Zealand is beautiful, and that The Lord of the Rings and Hobbit were filmed in New Zealand. Um, and so this is great. I'm loving it. For the folks that tuned in for apologetics, we're getting on a discussion in New Zealand. They're probably going, "What's going on here?" But that's okay. Um, so what I'm going to do is the chat usually stays on for a few minutes, and I get to say byes and highs and welcome people. And I put up folks that just fund these videos through Patreon. Now there are others who fund us through Chosen People. We love them. Steve is a dear, sweet brother who is immense help to us as just one example. But I did promise the Patreon folks, not because I didn't want to, but as a way to acknowledge them, because I don't do thank you letters. I do thank you letters to the folks who give through Chosen People Ministries, but I can't really do that through Patreon, and the electronic postcard thing does not work. Um, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the link right now, okay, from the actual location, okay, because someone's having trouble getting the PowerPoint. And so I'm going to do this for just a second. I hope you can still see me. I won't be able to see you. Okay, so I'm still here, and I'm going to quickly grab that link, if it'll let me grab this link. Okay, put it here, and I'm going to quickly go to the link, and I'm still here. Okay, and I'm going to get that person the link, and I'm going to put it right in the chat. So stay tuned, stay here. We're going to bring this to the chat. Okay, and I'm going to put this right in the chat. You should be able to click on it. This is the way it should be. Okay, and I'm going to go right here, share, and I'm getting that link for you now. I'm just setting it up so that it is legit, it is cool, it is the right link. I'm going to go copy. I'm going to jump back to YouTube. Here we go. Okay. Okay. If you click on that link, you're good. I do want to say goodbye to our wonderful visitor from New Zealand. I now can say that although I haven't been to New Zealand, at least my broadcast made it before I did. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. Someone's getting a Microsoft update. I know how that goes. If Bill Gates says you're going to get an update, you're going to get an update. So that's the way that works. Okay. Yeah, that's what you got to do. When you get a link like that, you have to click on the link and it will take you to the site. And then you have to download. If you don't click on it, nothing happens. Links are just that. They just bring you back to the spot. That's what a link does. So if you click on a link, it takes you to another spot. Okay? All right. And I'm going to put that list of names up who people have gone ahead and been great for us. And you should see that. And I'm going to put on the lovely music, but I'm going to put on the English countryside music.